All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome to the SWTC Illinois Community of Practice, August 6th, 2025, presented by myself and the rest of the Community Research Specialist team. Lots of familiar names underneath there, but there are two new ones that I'm hoping most of you have been acquainted with or seen at some of your meetings. So that is Nicole Burai and Concha de la Cruz. We're going to give them some time later on this call to have a quick introduction, and we can move on to the next slide. So for our agenda for today, we're going to switch things up just a little bit. So we're going to start with our welcome, of course, and then we're going to move right into the customer profile. So a little different today, we have the customer joining us on the call, which I think is a really wonderful inclusion for this segment. So we'll be able to actually talk to the customer, hear some more information about their experience with SWTC, gaining employment, and be able to ask some direct questions. From there, we're going to move into a presentation from Illinois Council on Developmental Disability about dignity and pay. As you all know, that legislation is passed. ICDD is the group that is developing that 5-year phase-out plan. So we have Rebecca Clark, who will join us in giving us some of those updates on what that's going to look like, where they're at in that process. We're going to move to the SWTC Illinois updates, and a large portion of that is going to be a presentation by one of the members of our team, Xiao Lei, who is doing a study on disability and grief. One other thing I just want to mention in this portion is that I've heard from a lot of y'all that you missed the games. And so I promise you, September, we're going to bring the games back to the COP because I think that is a really fun portion of these where we can really get some engagement out of them. And I know that there's quite some competitive people among the SWTC group. So that's always fun. For the time being right now, though, we're going to jump right into the customer profile. So I am going to turn this over to Sharon, Jill, and Cindy.
Thanks, Kyle. So my name's Sharon Bergfeld, and I am the CRS for the workshop up in Galena. And I'm very happy to be able to have Jill Winslow, who's one of our SWTC participants, and her employment specialist, Cindy Foley, on the call here. And Jill's going to kind of tell us about her job, and then and there'll be some other information as well. And then we'll have a period of time at the end where if anybody wants to ask Jill any questions about her experience or something, feel free to jump in. So with that, I'm going to let Cindy and Jill do their thing, and you guys can sit back and enjoy Jill's story. Cindy, are you there? Uh-oh. Are we having... Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. Oh, no, there's there. Cindy, are you there? There you are. Cindy?
We see you.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Maybe they're having technical difficulties. Issues. Yeah. Oh, this is a bummer.
Cindy, if you can hear us. Okay. Maybe if you want to sign off and sign back on. Okay, we'll start with a short intermission while we get these technical difficulties figured out, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, it says I called it. She's had some issues, a couple different meetings where she's had to, like, she can see her computer, but she can't, the camera won't work, but then she'll call in because the audio is goofy. So,
hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Yes.
I am so sorry.
That's okay.
I had the laptop up and we can't get a picture. So I called in because we couldn't get a voice.
Okay.
And now I feel there's an echo going on.
Okay. Oh, and you got terrible feedback. But can you see your screen to see the slideshow or no?
Actually, I made a copy for Jill and I. So I do
Okay.
have it.
So you know what?
And I can see the screen. I can see the
Okay,
screen also.
turn the volume down on your computer because that might be where we're getting the echo.
Yeah, or maybe you want to disconnect from the other one, from your computer.
Right.
Okay, just disconnect then. Okay.
Or mute the computer.
Mute the computer. Yeah, turn the volume down or mute your computer because we're getting an echo, Cindy, between your phone and the computer.
Okay. So I actually have
There
it
you
shut
go.
off now. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
There, that's much
So you're
better.
just not going to be able to see Jill, but
Okay. Well, we'll
it
be
is
able to
what
hear.
it is. We all love technology, correct?
Yes, that's
So,
right.
All right.
Okay.
And Jill has worked so hard on this. So, all right. But you can hear us, right? So
Yes,
Jill's
yes.
ready to go, Sharon.
Okay. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome. I'm Jill with the Support Agency, the workshop. Can't
Okay.
pronounce.
Subminimum wage earner.
I can't pronounce.
Okay. So she's a subminimum wage earner, and she's in the community employment program.
Adult,
Which is
McDonald's, $15 an hour, 7 hours average week.
Yep. So Jill started in McDonald's last September. She is just closed out of the program as of end of July. She works an average hours, about 7 to 10 hours a week, depending how busy they are.
And I do have some questions, ask them if they need anything else, like to do.
When you're doing your work, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, when you're doing your task. So we'll discuss that in a couple of minutes here. So Jill's team consists of
Next
DRS
slide, please.
counselors. Yep, DRS counselors Nathan DeYoung
And Louise.
and Louise Hucklebucky. Yep.
I can't pronounce her
That's
name.
okay. The research specialist is
Sharon Berkfield,
yep. And
And
employment
Sandy.
specialist is
Cindy Foley.
right.
Support worker is Corky, was Cortland, Luke Blackheart Corky from LSSI. And wraparound and other special services, DRS benefits planning, case management.
So Jill attends the workshop. She has been here for many years, and she has held other community jobs also. But Jill has been in the supportive employment program for a year now, and so she receives DRS services, and we've done the benefit specialist planning. And her case manager, she has a case manager here. So if there's any questions or anything, she can go to her. She does have a key family supporter, who is
Holly, my niece, and friends.
and your friends also.
So
So Jill has made lots of different friends at her work employment and also here at the workshop. So on the job at McDonald's, Jill goes to
Rose, Adam, Laura, Amanda,
and then at the workshop,
Denise, Crystal, I don't deal with her, but Ella, Carolyn, and Emma.
which is your case manager.
Yeah, my case manager.
So Jill does receive a lot of support, which is good for her.
Next slide.
And yes.
There we go.
So Jill's DRS process, she is initially started in the
Milestone.
and then she went into the supportive employment program. So her data referral was on June
7th, 24.
For a milestone, and then her referral for SCP supportive employment was on
10/22/24.
Right. Her date of eligibility was
6.7/24.
so in June 7th. Okay. Her IPP was initiated on June 7th also. And the information that was sent for the referral was the referral form and supporting documents. So there are different documents that DRS needs, of course. We were able to get some from here. Nathan DeYoung also had some from years prior, but then there was a form that Jill had to sign for them to get updated forms also, so information. Okay, what additional information was required? Was a background and medical information.
Past work history, IPP, and assessment.
So of course we had to do an assessment, an IPP, and make Jill's plan, and we did that at the workshop. So Jill's employer is
McDonald's.
okay.
Food prep and lobby assistant.
So a little bit about the food prep. What do you do at the food prep?
I do like putting like lettuce, cheese, and stuff in containers.
So we call those the simple preps.
Yeah.
So Jill does pickles, tomatoes, 2 types of onions.
Lettuce and the other, I do the blocks of cheese, but then Rose when we start doing the shredded cheese.
Cheddar cheese.
Yeah.
So Jill, you do that right when you clock in, correct?
Yeah.
And then when she's done with that, what do
I
you do?
do the lobby, like clean the bathrooms and sweep up the floors, do the windows, take out the garbage.
Right. Okay. Providing accommodations to a job position available to the general public. So this position was open to the general public, and Jill applied for it. How did she gain entry? How did you start the relationship with McDonald's? You worked with Emma, your case manager at the time, and what did you do? You went up to McDonald's, right? And you filled out an
application.
Yep. And you talked to the
Manager, Laura.
Yes. Okay. Jill's employment barriers and challenges.
Next slide,
So
please.
employment barrier is
Transportation.
so Jill lives in Warren, which is about a 40-minute drive from Galena, and McDonald's is in Galena. So Jill needs to use the transit. Transit is starting a new system, and they've increased their wages, their prices for the rides. So this is becoming a concern of Jill's because it costs $10 one way to get from Warren to Galena for her to work, and then $10 on the way back. So it's a big concern. It's isn't it, Jill?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I just put up with it and follow the flow, do whatever I can do to get to work.
Yeah. So Jill's a worker. She loves to work. So she's accepted the increase from transit, but it is hard because she is working a few hours on 3 days a week, and it accumulates a lot of money, that she's paying out for transit. But like she just said, she's accepted it. So, yep.
Yeah.
What was your other barrier?
That product for making burritos, I had a hand brace for that. But then after I was doing it for a while, and then they switched the hours.
Yes. So with Jill's preps at the very beginning, she did the simple preps that we talked about prior, but she also made the burritos. So the burritos don't come in frozen, as some people thought that they did to McDonald's. They're handmade. So Jill has a little trouble with her wrist. So she wore a wrist brace
Yeah.
and thinking that that would help a little bit. But unfortunately, it did not. And it was a little trouble for Jill to continue. But that didn't stop Jill from doing her other task, and that surely didn't stop McDonald's from having her work as an employee. So McDonald's decided to kind of switch a little bit on Jill's job. So she still does the simple preps that we talked about, but then you also do
The lobby.
so she does the lobby. And what do you do at the lobby?
I do the bathrooms, then I do the windows, I do the sweep them off the floors, then the garbage.
Yes. So, and I kind of skipped a little area, sorry. So another barrier challenge was online training modules.
Oh,
So, so what Jill had to do is she had to do a lot of modules on the laptop, and it did consist of a lot. She she needed assistance with that, right? So we
Yeah.
worked as a
team.
together and got it done. So there was some areas that that they were tricky. I will admit that myself, that there was a couple modules that we did have to repeat because they are a little bit trickier than what you think. So a lot of people think that, oh, McDonald's, what an easy job that would be, but it really isn't. It's got a lot of training, a lot of intense work, and Jill's doing great at it. So, and a little bit, if she wants to tell you a little bit about the bathroom, so where she's having a little barrier there is
Right in the women's bathroom, there's like a bar there, and we had trouble getting the key into it.
to change the toilet paper holder in the bathroom in the women's. There is a bar right above the toilet tissue holder. There is a tricky little key that has two little prongs on it that you have to get in there just right. If you don't get it in there just right,
It won't work.
so Jill has built a lot of natural supports at her work, and she does this daily when she is working to go check the bathrooms, of course. And if you can't get that key in, what do you do, Jill?
Tell the supervisor.
Yep. So she goes and gets her supervisor.
Yeah.
So she gets her natural support. So she knows that. So that's awesome. Okay. Now lessons learned. What did you learn
Next
with this
slide.
customer's employment?
Thanks.
What did you learn with this customer's employment process? Well, Jill started in Milestone. And the reason she was in Milestone is because she's had previous background of working in the community. But as we know in this field, and as we know every day, every job is different. So starting in Milestone, we thought that that would be a good place for her, but then we discovered that she needed more support than was needed. She needed support doing the prep work of the burritos, but then that got changed, which was good. But then she also needed support with the modules also. So that was a lot. She was probably on the modules probably a good month before she even got to go back to the kitchen area to work.
Yeah.
So what did I learn? I learned every job is different, and when you have to, make sure that our individuals understand each task and not just think, okay, we can put them in this program, but it may not work. But luckily enough, we could put Jill back in the supportive employment program, SCP program, and then she got the extra services. So, and now she's doing great. Now she doesn't need me anymore, right?
No, I don't need her no more.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
I just start come and check on me once in a while, though.
Yeah. What will you do differently with the next customers? Again, make sure the customer understands the task, and visual support was provided for Jill. So for her task. So she has a visual that she can look at if she needs to know exactly what prep and how to do that simple prep. And also in the lobby, what tasks need to be done, what needs to be completed before she's done with work. What are your strategies to ensure the customer employer remains satisfied for this employment situation? Check-ins. Check-ins are very, very, very crucial. You want to make sure that you are, even if they're in phase 8 and you feel that they're succeeding and they're ready to close out, make sure you still do your check-ins. We don't get paid for after phase 8, of course, as we all know, but I still do check-in. I have individuals that I placed many, many years ago, and I still check in just because I want to make sure that that person stays successful. So check-ins are very, very, very important. Communication with the management is very, very important. You need to go and talk to the management. Each time you're there to see your individual, make contact with the management to see if there's any concerns, if there's any questions or anything that you can, address to help that person stay successful. Jill still checks in with me, and how do you check in with me?
Text message you on my laptop for Messenger.
Yep. So she text messages me by Messenger. If I don't go see her, she'll text message me, and we continue to do that too because we want Jill to be successful at McDonald's, of course.
And I still love it there.
A message from Jill. What do you like best about your job and why?
Next slide.
What do you like?
Thank you.
Food prep, because I learned prep work up past job placement in the lobby, classes, windows, tables, and the bathroom.
Okay. So, Jill, talking about your past work where you had said that you learned a lot on your placement years ago, where were you working?
At a Kano's truck stop in Stockton.
And what were you doing?
Prep cook.
Mm-hmm. So she had experience in this. Even though they have experience, each job is different. Each restaurant is different. So, but she did get some of her background from her food prep from her job that she had at the truck stop. So that was good. How does working at McDonald's and being a SPITZY participant make you feel?
Good.
Okay. And why does it make you feel good?
Because I'm happy there.
Okay, very good.
And to see my friends and stuff too.
Right. What do you plan to do, and what did you do with your money? What do you plan? Where are you going in a couple months?
I'm going to Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
September 8th through the 12th.
And what are you going to do in Kentucky? You're going on vacation, right?
Going on vacation, but I don't know what we're doing.
Okay.
But I'm saving the money for that.
Yep. Have you ever been to Kentucky? No. So this will be something different. Are you excited?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's good.
And Laura knows. I told her way ahead of time.
Yes. Jill is very good about telling her supervisors, her managers, when she needs to be off, and she does it way far in advance. As soon as she knows, she will let them know, which they really, really like. A lot of great feedback from her managers and supervisors. They really enjoy having Jill work there. Jill, like we talked about, her hours are a little flexible because Jill will go in and there may be a lot of preps to do. There may be, not as many, depending how the business fluctuates, how busy they are. But Jill will complete them. Then she'll go to the lobby. And then after you're done with the lobby, what do you do?
check in and see if they need anything else, like if they need any more help
hmm
before I clock out and eat lunch.
And that's what the managers and the supervisors really like about Jill, because she's so flexible. She's
Yeah.
very flexible. She gets the job done, and they have no concerns, no questions. They've been really, really good.
Cool.
Okay.
Excellent.
Anything
Next
else
slide.
you want to say? Really good.
Next slide. There we go. Okay, so thank you, Cindy and Jill. And so this is sometime we've got a couple minutes before Jill's bus comes. But if anybody had any questions, one question that I had was I'd like to hear from Jill how Cindy has been helpful with her in getting her job and keeping her job. What are your thoughts about Cindy, Jill?
What does she mean by that?
What's your thoughts of me? Did I help you? Did I not help you? Did we become friends? What's your thoughts?
That she helped me, do like the burritos and stuff.
And what other things? Anything else you can think of?
She helped me with the toilet paper holder.
Yeah.
Later dog's hard.
Yeah. So,
And we text message her on, my laptop that I got too.
Yeah.
Tell her how I do during the day and stuff.
and I got a
Good.
really, really sweet message from Jill the other day. I was sick and she reached out, and do you remember what you said? What did you say?
To get better.
And you were praying.
And I'm praying for you to get better.
Oh,
Yep, yep.
that's sweet. That's sweet. Very cool.
Well, I worry about her, because then she was gone on vacation. That's why I told her, come and visit at least once a great while.
Yep. So I was gone on vacation, and as soon as I got back, Jill wanted me to come and see her.
Yeah.
So yep. So
Even though I don't need her anymore, but I still want her to come,
yes.
to visit her, talk to Laura, see how I'm doing.
And what's one thing that I tell you all, that we're here as a
Team.
team, and when you're ready and you feel like you know your job, you what?
Kick you out.
Yep. You tell this old lady goodbye.
I don't do it to be mean, though.
No. So, because I
There
want
you
them
go.
to know that they're independent. They're independent, and they should feel that way. And, I know I don't like someone steering over my shoulder, and I don't feel anyone else does either. So if they're comfortable and they know the task, and the business and the managers are all good, and they have no question or concern, it's time to tell your individual you're still here, but if you need your case manager, need your employment specialist, then reach out.
Okay.
And I saw you on Facebook.
You did.
And I saw Cindy on Facebook.
Yeah.
There you
We
go.
became what?
Friends.
Yep, we're friends. Yeah.
No, you had your employment thing.
Yeah. They had
On Facebook, I've seen that.
You've seen that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's Judy.
Okay.
This-
Anybody have any questions?
There you go. I got one more. If I'd like to know, Jill, what kind of advice would you give, say, one of the people that attends the workshop with you, if they were thinking about getting out into the community to get a job? What kind of advice would you give them?
So, okay. So, for instance, Jeremy is thinking about going out in the community to work. What advice? What would you tell him? Is it a go? Is it not? Or what should he do? What advice would you tell him?
To go.
And why would you tell Jeremy to go in the community?
To get. I don't know.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good.
To get used to, starting a job or something?
Because on the job, you what? You learn the task, right?
Yeah,
And you also make
money.
money, yep, to do what you want to do with like your trip, right?
Yeah,
And you also become,
friends.
yeah.
Very good.
um,
So does anybody else have, I don't know, Jill, if we're getting up against the clock with your bus getting there, but did anybody else have any questions for Jill? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Cindy and Jill. It was great to hear, Jill, about your job, and keep up the good work. And hopefully I'll see you again when I'm up in Galena next time.
Well, come and stop at McDonald's.
Okay,
You
I'll
know
do
what?
that. I'll do that. I'll make sure and come on a day you're working so that I can stop in there and say hi.
Say Thursday or Friday.
All right.
There you go.
Except Monday. and
Thank you
Wednesdays
again,
are not
ladies.
going.
Thank
You
you.
You're
bet.
welcome.
All right, Jill. All right, have a good night, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
and I'll talk to you tomorrow. All
You
right.
know where I'll be tomorrow?
Yep, you'll be at your job. All right, bye-bye.
All right.
I apologize that we don't have a picture, though. I wish you could have saw Jill, because she's always got a smile and she's very, very, very friendly. But our computer system's not working, unfortunately. So
All
always
right,
gotta be
Kyle,
something,
back
right?
to you. Yeah. All right, Kyle, back to you.
I'm here. Thank you, Sharon,
Okay.
Cindy,
Yo, you're
Jill.
welcome.
Thank you very much for setting that up. It's really nice to hear from a client on one of these calls. Sounds like Jill is very happy with her position. So for the sake of time, we're going to move right into the next segment here. If we can move on to the next slide. So now we have Rebecca Clark from ICDD, who is going to give us some updates on dignity and pay, the implementation, and the updates on that. So I will turn it over to Rebecca.
Thanks, Kyle. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rebecca Clark, and I'm really grateful to be here. We have quite a bit to cover in about 20 minutes. So if I go too fast, type something in the chat. I'll slow down to the best of my ability, but we can also connect after this meeting in a lot of different ways. I am a contractor for the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities for part of my professional life. You may run into me in other contexts, but today I'm here on behalf of ICDD and want to share that I was involved in the drafting of the multi-year plan. So very familiar with the work that got us to this point. I just this week restarted a contract, so I'm just getting back into it. We had a nice pause in July and we're ready to kick it off. I think one of the things two things are important to know about my professional experience that will help inform my perspective on the work going forward. The first is I was the CEO of a large provider organization in Chicago that in 2020 ended up needing to sunset our very large and well-known 14C operation. So I have done this work that our 14C operators are going to be doing. I'm very familiar with the hard conversations and decisions, but also the really exciting work ahead. I think the second thing it's important for people to know about my background is that I come from a real systems lens. And so for those of you who may be Chicago-based, you may remember, I think a decade ago now, the Chicago Public Schools closed 50 schools. The reason this is important is because I ran point on the transition of all students with disabilities from a closing school to a receiving school, as we called them at the time. I had to look at the individual needs of all of our individuals, including over half of those schools had programs for high support need individuals, and then work with individual schools that had individual strengths and individuals areas of support needs and make it all work. And so I have this kind of big system thinking brain around how do you take, in this case, 59 organizations across the state and have them work with their individuals to help move things in a certain direction. So I think that's why ICDD thought I would be a good fit for this role. And that's some of why I'm excited to share what I know here today. Next slide, please. So as you well know, the work that you've been doing with SWTC is running adjacent with the dignity and pay conversations. And so, you know, I think this is a really exciting opportunity where the work that you've done already can inform dignity and pay, or be supported by dignity and pay where there is that alignment. In a lot of ways, I think the SWTC organizations are ahead of the ball because you've been talking about this in a deeper way for a longer time. Next slide, please. So I'm going to really quickly go through some multi-year plan updates and make sure we're all level set on what it is. Next slide, please. So it was a plan that was required by the legislation to be submitted to the governor's office and the legislature as of July 1st, and that was accomplished. If you have not accessed the dignity and pay plan, you can, and I will, when I'm done here, put the link online. It's on the ICDD webpage in the dignity and pay tab. The whole multi-year plan is there. Next slide, please. And what you will find on the multi-year plan is 60 pages of a lot of stuff. Now, if you are anything like me and you need something to fall asleep at night with, this is the plan for you. Just joking a little. But if I were to ask you to focus in on sections of it, if you only have 20 minutes, I would tell you to focus in on what's third bulleted down under contents of MYP, the Illinois employment landscape for people with disabilities. It really sets the stage of where we are as a state. And then I would ask that you spend some time in the recommendations section. Now, the recommendations are dense, and we're going to look at one so I can kind of point out where you should look in a minute. Really just read the headline and then the recommendation itself if you're just trying to get a good overview. As we've already said, it's a 5-year roadmap to ensure there's no more subminimum wage payment by December 31st of 2029. Within the plan, you will see a lot of accountabilities and ownership assigned to the recommendations. This has been well supported by the governor's office and will continue to be supported by the governor's office. In fact, there are some recommendations assigned to the governor's office that we'll look at briefly shortly. And it also requires regular reporting, including an annual report on implementation. So if you know anything about working for state government or city government, I've done both now, you know, sometimes plans are made and they are not implemented. There is a very clear intent to implement this plan and be held accountable for the deliverables in this plan. So I just want to say that up front. This was not written to be a plan to put on the shelf. There's active conversations about how we make sure this plan turns into our reality. Next slide, please. Also, while we're moving forward, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll either answer them along the way if it makes sense, or we'll get to them at the end. So let's go through the recommendations. Next slide. On this next slide, you will see some of my favorite bolded words that you should really just key in on. I'll highlight a few. Fluid, adaptable, shared accountability, built for course correction is really important. We know that what we saw that informed this plan at this point may look a little different when we dig a little deeper. And so next year, there may be some revisions. We're ready for that. And we have kind of queued that up for everybody engaged in this process. Long-term impact, sustainable system change, best practice, community input, all really important. Next slide, please. The other thing I want to highlight here is that everyone's like, where's the money coming from? Everything's going to cost a lot of money. We're figuring the cost of it out. In part, we don't have numbers now because we believe that the fiscal impact will be lessened with improved coordination, efficiencies for both providers and state agency partners, and just real opportunities for collaboration and not duplication. We already know there's duplication going on. How do we streamline those things? Next slide, please. So the recommendations are organized into 4 drivers, and they are also color coded in the plan. Those 4 drivers are really about capturing who is impacted by the recommendation. So we have our 14C workers, we have our providers, we have the systems area of like what needs to be fixed or adjusted or amended within the systems that do this work. And then we have a driver around how are we telling the story of what we've done here. I will tell you the highest number of recommendations fall under systems, just so you know. Next slide, please. This is a skeleton of a recommendation. It's actually a real recommendation. We just pulled one out so you could see. With every recommendation, there's, again, that one line title, like what is this really about? This one is about Rule 116 flexibility to support medication access in the community for people. The highlighted area is kind of the meat of the recommendation, the deeper language around that recommendation with deadlines and owners, and it ties to that outcome. Those indicators of success that you'll see are steps that need to happen to get to that outcome that have been identified. And then finally, the recommended entities involved at the bottom right of your screen are those entities who have some hand in what's going on here. And in advance of the plan going out for public comment, we met with all of our state agency partners and said, hey, want to make sure you know that this is a recommendation. Do you have feedback? Do you have thoughts? And in some cases, those meetings were so powerful because some of our state agency partners were like, oh, we've already started that. But other agencies didn't know that. So we found our way into some natural starting points for several of the recommendations that we're going to start pursuing. Next slide, please. So there is a disclaimer in the plan above the recommendations that while some recommendations are flagged for potential fiscal impacts, many can be addressed through improved coordination, strategic planning, use of existing resources, efficiencies, and the like. So just flagging that again here today. Next slide, please. So there is a series of slides that I'm going to whip through right now based on timing. All of this is in the multi-year plan, but one of the steps I did was I went through the plan and I said, who's the lead on recommendations? Just so when we're having these conversations and bringing up people up to speed on implementation, you can kind of see that each agency has its set of lead spots, and then there's some collaboration there within. So let's go to the next slide. This outlines what ICDD is leading on. We're leading on continuing the work groups. The work group's focus will shift from being what needs to be in the plan work group to how do we make sure the things in the plan are getting done work group. And we're working on reformulating the mission of that work group and reaching out to people to say they want to be on it. Again, excuse me. Also identifying project management support, that's me. Things like a public facing dashboard on progress, coordinated TA and training initiatives. Next slide, please. Training survey is required. Centralized sets of trainings. All tools currently used across the state systems are going to be looked at to see, is there opportunity to, again, find ways to coordinate better and make things make more sense for people. Yes, of course, these slides will be, my understanding is they'll be posted on the SWTC site in a PDF format, but you could also get all of this in the Dignity and Pay report. Next slide, please. So the governor's office is leading on things like helping secure the academic partner, a marketing campaign to Illinois businesses, which we already know is happening through WIOA work. Reviewing state regulations, policies, and practices, again, to identify places where alignment needs to be made with Dignity and Pay Act. Next slide, please. I find myself reading them all just naturally. I'm not going to do that going forward. DRS is leading on a communication and engagement campaign, an inventory of employment support services, sharing information, tools and training resources to assist businesses. Next slide, please. DDD as an independent agency actually has the highest number of recommendations where they place the lead role. Things like updating the Rule 116, billing codes, assistive technology is heavy here as well, revising Rule 119. Next slide, please. Making sure CIE is prioritized and there's not a default mechanism to CDS, but CIE is part of every conversation with every person. And again, more AT. Next slide, please. There are several recommendations that name both DRS and DD together leading on these things. Next slide, please. And then there are a series of recommendations related to other departments, like, for instance, the Illinois Department of Labor needs to implement internal processes so that they are no longer issuing 14C certificates at the time of phase out, right? So those are little things that need to happen to make sure we're all aligned on this. Next slide, please. And then there are some that just are broadly owned, and we're going to have to figure out who's going to be the one to coordinate pulling all of these people together to make these things happen. Next slide. There is an academic partner role, as mentioned early. The governor's office is involved in identifying that academic partner. That role is really about supporting data integration across systems, ensuring we're collecting the information that we need to report on the plan and the data elements of the plan that we're required to report on, increasing transparency and accountability, that type of thing. Next slide, please. And then there's technical assistance, which I mentioned earlier. It's comprehensive. One of the things I'm excited about here is we are not the first state doing this. We are, I think, the 19th, and then a 20th state started this while we were getting close to finishing it. All that to say, besides the point, we have a lot that we can learn from other states that have already built out training modules around the very things that we need training modules around. And we've started to make those connections with those other states to say, hey, can we share? Did that work for you? Did it not work? That type of thing. So really excited for the partnership that's ahead of us around this. I'm going to very quickly pause here and ask if there are any questions to this point. Next slide, just so we'll queue up the next section. Anything? Okay, so let's talk about what we're working on right now. Next slide, please. So as I said, I've just come back on. There was a kind of a pause. We got that plan approved across the finish line. We did what we said we were going to do by July 1, and now we're picking it back up and saying, how do we execute on this? How do we make this work happen? 82 recommendations, lots of moving parts there within. So the first step is an implementation plan. We're well on the way to having an implementation plan where, again, the outcome is listed. All of the benchmarks are already identified underneath it. And we'll be like leaning into conversations with the owners of the recommendations to say, okay, when's the right time for y'all to be doing this recommendation over the course of the next 5 years? I want to clearly say, not every recommendation is going to start out the gate tomorrow. It just doesn't make sense, both because our agencies have work on their plates already, and also there's going to be a natural cadence to some of the recommendations, like a domino effect, if you will. So we have to figure out, what is year one? What are we really leaning in to get done of the 82? What are we committing to for year one? And as I said before, identifying resources developed by other states who came before us and say, all right, what can we use to make our lives a little easier that really worked for your state? There's some really compelling training modules that exist out there that we could probably just dust off, put the word Illinois on, and they're ours. Can you go back 2 slides? Yeah, thanks. Next one. There. We're going to kick off that dignity and pay work group for implementation. The end game for that work group this year one is going to be our annual multi-year plan report on implementation. What did we do? Hold us accountable. And along the way, over the course of the year, it's what's stalled, what's not working, where are we running into barriers, what is working, what should we be talking more about? All of that. There's also, if you were familiar with the Dignity and Pay Work Group, in the structure that it was related to the development of the multi-year plan, you may be aware that there were 3 subgroups that went into specific areas to develop recommendations around. Those subgroups fulfilled their goals, but new subgroups will be emerging related to implementation, one of which is called out in the multi-year plan, and it's related to innovative CDS, community-based services for individuals who choose not to work in the community, and with a particular emphasis on those who may be of retirement age. So that's the only subgroup that is specifically called out in the multi-year plan, but I expect we'll have some more subgroups that emerge as needs as we get started. Data. In the plan, there are 49 specific call outs for data fields that are required to be reported on at a certain cadence to a certain audience. I've created this lovely spreadsheet that says, all right, this needs to be reported on quarterly to the EEOPD task force, for instance, is one example. And so we have to make sure everybody knows that there are data commitments in this, and then we have to figure out if we have the data already or if it's new data we need to start collecting. So there's got to be kind of this lift at the beginning to say, all right, we promised we would tell this story, we would be transparent. What data do we have? What do we need to get? How do we make sure we're able, come next June, to actually tell the story on the indicators that we said we were going to tell the story on? And then finally, and this has been ongoing in a lot of different ways, but making sure all 14C providers have a touch point. They understand that this is a 5-year timeline. I'm just going to say it this way. Anytime someone right now panics a little bit of I don't know how to do this, it gets routed to me. So I know there are people I don't even know where to start. And those are the individualized conversations where we start talking about, what are you most worried about? What do you think is, low-hanging fruit? How do we start moving on it? And it's different for every agency. You guys know that some agencies are worried about getting people jobs in the community. Some agencies are worried about becoming CDS providers. Some agencies are worried about their physical space. Some agencies are worried about upskilling their staff. Some agencies are I don't need to upskill my staff. I don't need that right now. What I do need is this over here. And so those conversations are happening one-on-one. Right now it's informal based on reach outs, but they'll be more formalized as we go along, and really helping agencies. I call it my first then thinking, if you've worked in the disability space for a long time, as y'all have, just like I have, you start with first do this and then do that, right? And so we're chunking the work, if you will. And those have been some really powerful conversations with some of our 14C providers. With that, that's all I have. I think I successfully got through in 20 minutes, which was my goal, Kyle.
You did a fantastic job. This is a lot to cover. Yeah.
Oh, go back to that one slide, because this is the slide that gets me super jazzed. This is what I want us to be able to do. These are real graphs from an April 2025 Government Accountability Office report issued, where the Government Accountability Office was asked at the federal level, how do we know phasing 14C out is meaningful, and what happens to those humans? And so they looked at all of the people who came before us who've been doing it. They looked at the ones that were required to collect data as part of their legislative obligation, and then those who have been engaged in this for a little while. So not in the last 2 years, but they have a runway of information. And Colorado and Oregon were the two. There was a third, I can't remember it, but they didn't agree to participate for whatever reason. And so in 5 years, we want to be able to say, of the 3,500 plus people who are currently making sub-minimum wage in Illinois, or at least working in a sub-minimum wage shop, because we also know that there's a fraction of those folks who are making minimum wage just in a sub-minimum wage shop, where did they end up? Right. And so these are examples of data from Colorado and from Oregon that I think have set a bar for us to be able to tell in our storytelling. So now now I'll be very happy that I finished within time.
Yeah, I thought it's a lot of stuff. That document itself is huge. I really like that you highlighted one of the recommendations, especially the recommendation that you did highlight about the more flexibility with medication in the field, because I know that working with my agencies, that is something that is a barrier that comes up often.
Yeah.
With a client getting a job, they can only work a certain amount of time in a certain day because of that medication. So I have looked over the document, myself numerous times, and I see that you've taken into account many of those detailed things that are barriers to someone getting a job in the community. I have numerous questions. I'm just going to start with one, and then we'll give it over to some other folks if they have questions. You're talking about collecting data and giving that data to the governor's office. Do you think that the data that's collected is going to influence whether these recommendations are put into action, through the different systems within Illinois? Does that make sense?
I am hopeful. I really like data. I think it at least it's the starting point for the stories that we need to tell about what's happening with humans. And it was very intentionally, the data points were very intentionally thought through about like, what are they and who needs to see them? And so my hope is, yes, the data will influence decisions.
And is that data collected just through different CRPs throughout Illinois? I know that you still haven't identified who's going to collect that data, but is that the goal, that it's done with, different areas, rural, urban, to try to collect different sets of data to kind of come to a conclusion on certain aspects of this?
So there are so many different fields of data that we have been asked through the plan to gather, and they are collected in so many different places. Some of them will be just at the CRP, right? Not just, but at the CRP level, because they're not being reported up in any way. They may not even be being collected at the CRP level. I mean, just speaking honestly, there may be some like, hey, how do we get this? How do we get our CRPs to collect this and report it? And so I think there's a lot of work to do there. And what was the second part of your question?
I think that pretty much summed it up. Just sort of who are the entities that are going to be collecting this data? Like, where do you want to get it from? Systems to DRS, DHS? State
agencies certainly are part of those conversations. Consortiums are part of those conversations. There's a lot about what we don't know around this. And every time I started a separate spreadsheet of like, every time somebody said, oh, we collect that data here, I would put it over there. And I ended up with a list of like 30 different systems people were using around different indicators that all are relevant to this work. It's just really uncoordinated.
I would imagine that different, like you're saying, different agencies are collecting different things in different ways, and that it's probably difficult to sort through. So yeah, it would be great if there was one sort of universal system that was maybe not everyone would want to fully adopt it, but if it was available to adopt to collect this data, which I'm sure that's what you guys are working towards.
Yep.
One other question is, I know that when the multi-year plan was released, it was open for public comment. Were those comments then utilized to then re-influence the phases, or?
They absolutely were. We got more than 50 comments. It was a really great response. There were two mechanisms for responding. One was just to email people's comments to the Dignity and Pay contact email, and the other was a form, and the form was more kind of yes/no questions with fields to insert feedback. We took it all, and we have a summary document of all of the feedback we got, and it did impact recommendations. I will tell you, the CDS subgroup came as a recommendation because there was so much feedback that there weren't enough recommendations around making CDS more meaningful and easier to access for people. Another recommendation that came that we haven't talked about yet, but that it came out of the feedback, was the governor's office has agreed to appoint, I'm going to get the words a little bit wrong. It is not a chief officer. It is much like the Children's Behavioral Health Initiative and the Homeless Initiative have kind of cross-agency coordination people now. A similar cross-agency coordination role will be developed for DD employment initiatives. Okay. I don't know when that's going to happen, but there was such strong feedback, particularly from our provider community, about needing someone to kind of cut through the muck and the mire of the individual agency rules and regulations and really pull it together so the system makes sense for people. And that's the language I use a lot. The system has to make sense for people, right? We can talk rules and regulations and bureaucratic terms all we want, but if people get lost in that, it doesn't work, right? And so that's a second example of feedback that came from the open comments that has been included with the governor's office's blessing. They saw everything before it went to build that position.
I think that's really great to hear, because I think that is one of the issues. That the systems are hard to navigate. People, I think, get disheartened trying to navigate them on their own. It's hard to know what is right for you in your position or your family member or the person you're trying to support. And some people don't have someone that's that close to them to support them. It could be a state guardian who might not want to invest that much time in figuring out these systems. So figuring out different ways to deliver that information that is more easily digestible, I think is key to making this successful. Any questions from anyone else? If anybody has not seen the full multi-year plan, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm sure you could shoot Rebecca an email as well, and she could send it to you. This presentation itself will be on the SWTC website along with this recording. So feel free to go back through it. I would highly recommend looking at the different recommendations because there's a lot of substantial stuff in there relating to transportation, relating to, awesome. Thank you so much. A lot of the intricate things that I'm sure most of the CRPs and the employment specialists are experiencing when trying to navigate getting someone from the workshop into competitive integrated employment.
And I'm just flagging that the reason why my email is red and kind of highlighted is because when I was doing the dignity and pay work in my last kind of contract, it was through a different email address. So if you have an old Rebecca Clark email address, if you could pivot to using this one for dignity and pay, that would be great. Okay.
Okay. Rebecca, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for bringing this information to the SWTC teams.
Of course. Thank you for your time, and truly reach out with anything. I know there's behind the scenes collaboration going on, and I look forward to that too. So thanks so much. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Godspeed with all of this.
All of us. Godspeed for all of us.
Yes.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you. Okay. So lots of information, I know. That's something I think that we could have talked about for the entire COP. But I think that trying to give that to you in chunks is going to make more sense instead of just trying to go through that entire document right off the bat. But I would definitely take a look at it. Check the ICDD website because there's often things like being able to publicly comment on that 5-year phase out plan. You know, the people who are doing this work, your voice is important. And based on what Rebecca has said, they're taking those recommendations very seriously. So highly recommend that you kind of stay abreast of what's going on and what ICDD is doing with this phase out plan. All right, we can jump to the next slide. Okay, and the next slide, unless anything's come to mind, anybody? Okay, so now we're back where we usually start. So some updates for August. So we do have 2 new community research specialists. So we have Nicole Beery. I don't know why I have a hard time with that, Nicole, my bad. And Concha de la Cruz. So Nicole is going to be supporting CTF, the workshop, and Kreider Services. Concha will be with AID, Centerstone, and HSS. I'm assuming all of those teams have met them at this point. I think it's good for the DRS staff to see these names and these faces as well, because you might be interacting with these 2 new CRSs at some point too. One thing I want to designate is that they are working on the transition side of things. So working to connect with the schools, the transition centers, for the individuals that are contemplating going into sub-minimum wage, to work with getting them referred for the agencies and to receive SWTC level services. Nicole, you wanna say hello?
Yes, hello. I'm Nicole Beery, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys, the CTF, the workshop, and Kreider, and getting to know everyone.
Thank you, Nicole. Concha, you want to jump on here?
Right. Hi, I'm Concha de la Cruz. I've met most of you in one capacity or another. I have, for the last 25 years, been in some form and served in some role in education. Most recently, I was the vocational coordinator for Belleville District 201, and I am excited to be joining the team this year.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And they got on the team right at a perfect time because I think a lot of you were able to meet them face to face at the Employment Specialist Roundtable recently, which is always helpful when working in this virtual world that we all work in. It's really nice to see people face to face to get an idea of who you'll be working with on these virtual calls. So secondly, I want to highlight the SWTC Comprehensive Formative Evaluation Report, which is something that the SWTC evaluation team has been working on. So some of the employment specialists, I think you all were interviewed by the evaluation team. They interviewed us, the community research specialists, along with the additional data that they have been collecting throughout this project. So this is a report that kind of encapsulates all of that work that they've done into one document. So this should be completed. I would imagine that they'll have it done it could be done now. I just have not received it yet. But within, the end of the month, I would highly recommend taking a look at it, getting an idea of, all the data that's being collected in SWTC. It's being designed. Okay. So Janelle, the data is there. It's just, we're getting it into a digestible format for you all. So I think this would be really good for agencies, DRS, everyone to take a look at. The key findings, different recommendations for project improvement. So be on the lookout for that. I'm sure you'll be notified about that through SWTC Connect or through your CRS team member. We can move along to the next slide. And some events that I want to highlight. So we have the Sylphies Media filming coming up. This is going to happen throughout the week of August 8th. So here are the exact times for each agency. Of course, your CRS team member, Shirley, has talked to you about this. You probably have a calendar invite, but I just thought it was good to put it on the screen so everyone can take a look. And your CRS will start working with you on what we want to film during this round of filming. Trying to get an idea of what kind of successes are out there. One thing we want to focus on is, the level of support that individuals are receiving and sort of how things have progressed throughout them coming on board and receiving SWTC services. So take a look at that. If any of those dates or times seem off to you, please reach out to your community research specialist to have a discussion with them. And then
Kyle, it says
Yeah.
September dates confirmed, but then it says August. These are in September, aren't they?
You are surely correct.
Okay, good.
Thank
I
you.
was starting to panic.
Yes, no, that is, thank you, Sharon.
You're
If I
welcome.
turned red, it's obviously because I'm embarrassed by that mistake. But yes, these are September,
Okay.
not
All right.
August.
Thank you.
Thank you,
like,
Sharon.
Wait,
No,
no, it's all
Kyle,
right. That's all right.
this is Alita. Sharon, thank you for hopping in there. I just want to say what those dates are. Okay. So the next filming date is the week of September 9th through the 12th. And the agencies will be getting more information with regards to the content. We're super excited about the next filming dates. Thanks, Kyle. And Sharon.
Yeah, my apologies, everyone. That is obviously confusing. September, not August. We have a month to plan and coordinate these activities. Sincere apologies on my part. So then we have the annual meeting coming up on October 9th and 10th. And the registration link is live for that event. There's a QR code as well. Thank you, Janelle. And then lodging will be available for those directly related with the project. So if you go through that registration, it's going to ask you if you require accommodation for either the 8th and the 9th or just the 9th. We ask that DRS personnel, you work with Jennifer Grissom to book your accommodations for this event. And we really, really hope that, all of you get to come out and join us for the annual meeting. I think it's always really good to have us all in the same place at the same time. And we are currently working to develop an agenda for that meeting. Typically, this is when there will be an employment specialist community of practice and an executive community of practice. So there will not be a virtual community of practice in October. Any questions about the annual meeting, the registration? And just to highlight, registration is required by August 29th.
Hey Kyle, this is Jen. Crystal and I are coming to this, and so we registered today, and because we've not come to this recently, do y'all handle making our hotel reservations for this?
That
Hi, Jen. Yes, we will. If you register and you put there, we'll take care for that for you, and then you just need to worry about your travel in.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you.
good question, Jen. Okay, so VCU is accounted for accommodation wise. Good to know. Any other questions? Okay, and of course you can find that link on the SWTC website under events as well. Your CRS should have sent out an email to the agencies with this link and some further instructions. Okay, next slide. Okay, so to end the COP, I'm going to turn it over to Xiaolei Tang, and she is going to be talking about a research study that she is currently working on. So Xiaolei, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, everyone. My name is Xiaolei Tang. I'm the training specialist, research training specialist with the Institute. It is a pleasure to be here. I always hear great work all the employment specialists are doing, and this is my first time being on the same meeting with you all and other folks related to this project. It was so good to hear the story at the beginning of this meeting. And today I want to briefly just present this research study that I'm kicking off and a rough timeline and mostly some help, I hope, as minimum time that I'm going to imposing on you, the employment specialist, in terms of the process of the research. And moving forward, I will keep you all posted about the specific next step and request. This study is about exploring the disability grief experience among adults with intellectual and developmental disability. This is out of my personal research interest and expertise. Next slide, please. So I wanted to provide some brief background in terms of the purpose of the study. I'm hoping to gain some understanding of a disability-related grief experience among adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This is the area that has not been addressed and with different reasons. So there is a void in the literature and just out in the community that people have different levels of understandings or assumptions in terms of disability-related grief experience among this community. Some background, back in 2021, I did my first disability grief study and conceptualized grief, disability grief as the grief experiences over the perceived loss associated with the lived experience of chronic health conditions and disabilities. So there are several pieces here in this operationalized definition. One is that there's no some assumptions over every individuals with disabilities experience grief. So the loss is individualized, perceived. So during my first sets of study, there are questions about specific type of loss associated with the lived experience of chronic health condition disabilities. And the 2021 study I did, it was among adults with acquired physical disabilities. I also look at over the course of the adaptation process to the life with disabilities, where grief coming to surface and how grief is manifested in the lived experience overall. In general, grief in the context of health-related health conditions and disability or chronic illness is overlooked. And there is a term that was coined in 2016 called disenfranchised grief, and grief experienced by individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities falls into this category that people often don't recognize when they're grieving, or sometimes assume that they don't grieve. That's defined by the community, the people without disabilities. So I'm hoping that we can enfranchise this part of the experience that possibly are experienced by people from the intellectual and developmental disability community. And also, there have been research among the grief experiences just in general, particularly in the context of the loss of loved ones, in terms of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But there has not been any study on disability-related grief experience in this community. So I'm hoping to work with you all to learn the stories from some of our clients who may be interested in participating in this study, and to have some understanding of this individualized experience. And next slide, please. So this is gonna be a qualitative research. In general, very roughly qualitative research, we would gather stories, testimonies, information from participants by having a conversation, interview, by researchers asking a series of questions following a interview protocol. So it is the methodology is a phenomenological qualitative research, particularly for the purpose of understanding a phenomenon. So in the context of this proposed study, it will be for the purpose of understanding the grief experience context of living with intellectual and developmental disability, and trying to understand what does that look like individually, and what are some of the implications for service providers, family members, and broadly the communities. We're hoping to have recruit 10 participants and conduct 10 interviews. And we're hoping to recruit from the Swiss Illinois participants. Obviously, that's why I'm here. And each interview will be no longer than 90 minutes. We want one key caretaker or family member who can help with communication process and the interview process to be with these participants for the interview process. And that's where I will rely on our team, our CRSs and employment specialists to help with the recruitment and identification of who are interested and are available for this interview, for this research participation. And ideally, I'm hoping to conduct the interviews in person, but the plan is not confirmed. I'll work with our leadership, and just once the financial support for travel is confirmed, if we can conduct in-person interview, again, I'll work with our CRSs and employment specialists to make sure that we're taking the minimum of your time, and make the most efficient effort out of it. And there will be compensations provided to participants. Again, once the compensation number is confirmed, it will be in the recruitment letter for a distribution for the specific information about the study participants. And next slide, please. A rough timeline. So we're hoping to start recruiting as soon as I get the IRB approval. I will keep Kyle and the rest of the CRS team posted about the process, and hoping through September we can identify participants who are interested in participating in this research study. And October, November. Hopefully that will be the time that we can have an interview plan and start interviewing. I'm hoping to, by the end of the year, we can have the data, all the interview transcriptions and data cleaned out. And through early next year, we can have some publishable product to disseminate with participants, with people who are involved. I'm hoping that the stories that's shared with participants doesn't just go into a published journal, but also we want you to review it too, just so that it is a valuable part of your life. And this whole process will be laid out in more detail in terms of what's going to happen next. So this is the first very brief presentation of what's coming up regarding this research project and the help I may need from you, particularly our CRSs and implement specialists. I'll keep you all posted. And please let me know if you have any questions. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. And any questions at this moment?
Okay, thank you, Shale. To me, this sounds like a very interesting study. I think that it's maybe something that doesn't get spoken a lot about with the population we work with. And I think seeing the kind of answers you get will be very, very unique. So I look forward to, assisting you with this, helping identify some clients, customers, and some members of their family to have these conversations with.
Thank you, Kyle. And thank you, everyone.
Okay, so that brings us pretty much to the end. We're at 3:24. Any outstanding thoughts, questions, suggestions, COP suggestions, annual meeting suggestions? Feel free to air them out here, send us an email. More questions about dignity and pay, the phase-out plan, any of the above, or anything not of the above can be brought in these next few minutes here. We'll hang on the call. But if not, you are free to sign off. We appreciate everyone taking the time to join these COPs. And as Janelle said, they will be online along with the presentation.